Welcome back to Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I am PCM TV founder Jimmy Young, and this is the B block, or second section, of our weekly Cannabis Coast to Coast news show. This is when we take a look beyond the borders of the United States to see what's going on in other parts of the world. France is moving forward with their reforms, and you know about that experiment in Switzerland? Well, there's been some pushback on that. Here's our European correspondent Ben Stevens, followed by Debi Facey in Canada.
I'm Ben Stevens with Business of Cannabis with this week's European Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. This week, Switzerland's southernmost canton, the Italian-speaking Ticino, located south of the Alps, voted to wash its hands of involvement in the country's thriving adult use pilot projects. Since 2021, Switzerland has allowed for the small-scale adult use cannabis pilot projects to be launched by the local authorities. These are strictly for scientific research purposes and are intended to provide an evidence base for the best way to legalise cannabis at a federal level in the future, a project Switzerland has recently launched. Despite the wider government's relatively liberal stance on cannabis reform, the Council of Ticino held a heated debate on proposals to launch two trials in the region, awash with prohibitionist rhetoric. In the debate, opponents of the bill put forward the widely debunked gateway drug theory and claimed that while pilot projects were presented as harmless and scientifically neutral, they actually contribute to a dangerous trivialization of cannabis, especially among younger generations. More pertinently, they argued that given 7 pilot projects are currently up and running, there was little need to duplicate the results. Proponents of the bill pushed back, stating that given the region's unique social and cultural position, it was vital studies be conducted that are specific to the region. Ultimately, the council voted not to actively participate in the trials, though it's important to note that this doesn't mean they won't be going ahead, as the ultimate decision lies with the Federal Ministry of Health, which is already considering both applications. What this does mean is, as seen in other cantons like Zurich, the local council will not play an active role in the studies, and this could cause issues for their rollout in future. Meanwhile, in neighbouring France, the details of its long-awaited medical cannabis framework were made public this week. As we've covered in previous weeks, at the start of the month, it looked pretty unlikely that France would be moving ahead with its national cannabis rollout at all. This changed significantly over the last few weeks, and details sent to the EU show that France was now not only likely to launch this in the next 12 months, but that the programme would now include prescriptions of flower, something previously considered completely off the table. While flower will be allowed, it will not be allowed to be consumed by smoking, and patients must use specific vaporizer devices to consume. Experts are, however, optimistic for the first time in years and estimate that by 2035 the market could grow to between 300 and 500,000 patients, making it one of the largest markets in Europe. That's all for this week's European Cannabis Report. I'm Ben Stevens from Business of Cannabis, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
This is Debi Facey with the Canadian Coast to Coast News Report. This week, this news report is going to be a little bit different, just going to be involving a little bit of the America, but with the Canada. But with our story today is going to be the Edible Arrangements Company that we knew in Canada for their lovely arrangements of fruits, is going to be entering the edible industry in the States. They have realized and decided to launch edibles.com, which is an e-commerce platform offering hemp-derived THC products, including gummies, beverages, and initial deliveries in Texas, and it plans to expand within the States. Their main idea is to leverage the delivery networks. Edible Brands aims to provide consumers with the convenient aspect of the premium hemp-derived products, partnering with the well-known cannabis brands Wana, Kiva, and Can. This is something that's pretty cool because we know edible arrangements here in Canada, and that's a cool plus. Next, what we have is PAC, which is the Political Action Committee, has released a video alleging that Canada is attacking American cannabis businesses by capitalizing on the federal legalization while U.S. companies face restrictive regulations. I had to read that off the page just due to the fact that that is something that I truly wish I understood, especially due to the fact that us in Canada due to have been legal for the past now 6 years, but we haven't really had the chance to have an impact on America due to the fact that there are 50 states that all have to make their own regulations and laws and rules, and there's one Canada. That's it. We make one rule, and from there we all just have to work with it. So I hope that America overall doesn't think as Canadians are impacting your industry, especially in a negative aspect, because we're all here for the same positive reason, which is to legalize cannabis in the best, informative, safest way possible. This is Debi Facey with your Canadian Cannabis Coast to Coast report. Peace.
Now let's bring it back to the States and talk about California, where taxes, lawsuits, busts, and the opening of social clubs continue to drive the conversation in the nation's #1 cannabis market. You should know that California is a pretty big state, so asking one correspondent to cover it all is a little too much. So now we get it from another Northern California correspondent. His name is Yaro Kubrin, and he joins Dina Nagib in the South. Now, Dina was on hand for an opening of a new dispensary called Catalyst in San Diego, located at a former MedMen dispensary.
Let's go. Welcome to the main event. Applying pressure, but I promise I ain't make it dance.
Appreciate y'all. Catalyst, San Diego. We're getting our roots down deeper here. We for the people. Oh!
I'm Dina Nagib, Principal Consultant at Grass Goddess Consulting, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Here today with Elliot Lewis of Catalyst.
The jacket's all busted. I'm rocking.
So
keep
we
going.
can start over if you want. No, we're good.
No,
We're going to keep rolling.
I like the authentic, yeah.
So Elliot,
Yes.
we had your grand for San Diego today. That's number 30, right?
32.
32.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah. It was 30. We backed a couple after it, and then we come back grand open this one. So.
Okay. Well, yeah. What does San Diego mean to you? Do you want to just talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just super exciting. We want to make a good effort to get our, really get our roots into the community. I was joking on the way here. Guys are making some more Dodger swag. I was like, we better be a little more neutral with the Padres and whatnot. But no, man, it's just a super cool place. Everybody loves San Diego. Been doing business back in the day down here. A lot of cool different businesses already here. So we're just happy to be, part of the cannabis industry here and hope to get deeper involved in the community.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate everything that you do for the community. You have a huge footprint in California. I will say, as a 15-plus year season ticket holder for the Padres, definitely hoping that you can kind of toe that line a little bit. But I appreciate a good competition.
I'm going to get a little more political with the Dodger thing. We love the Giants and the Padres too, but no, just mess around. But yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, everybody appreciates a little healthy rivalry. In fact, some of our buddies we have down here that have stores, they're coming up maybe for the Padres-Dodgers game, so it will be fun. Not to go down that MLB rabbit hole, but just happens to be fresh in my mind as we were chatting about it on the way down here.
I love that. Well, congratulations. Thank you for taking a minute to chat with us today. This is Dina for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Thank you. And one more thing. Remember this. Fire weed, fire prices, weed for the people.
Okay, we've got a very special report here on Cannabis Coast to Coast News, and someone we are very excited to be joining our Cannabis Coast to Coast News team from Northern California, not to be confused with Southern California, which is where Dina Nagib hails from in San Diego. This is Yaro Kubrin. He is from the Northern California area, and he's a second-generation cultivator in California and also a real estate magnate in that area where you have been involved with real estate deals involving the cannabis industry. Yaro, thank you so much for joining us. And I should probably mention that you also contribute to another news team that is the High at 9 live news with, what's his name? Jason Beck and our old friend, Rico Lemit. So you got it all going for you, Yaro. And thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, 2 points of clarification right out of the gate. I'm not a real estate magnate. I'm a real estate mogul because a mogul is a bump on a hill, and that's pretty much what I am. The second thing is is that I am not a contributor to High at 9 News. I am a detractor. They just can't unplug my microphone quick enough. But I tend to make sure that we don't have too much agreement wherever I go. Rounding into the California update for this week, we've got a lot of exciting and not so exciting things happening, some of which are new and some of which are lingering, like an infection that hasn't been knocked out by penicillin. On the infectious side, we've got this increase in taxes that is still poised to act as yet another nail in the coffin for regulated cannabis here in California. And we're seeing some legislation that's been put forth to try to stay that. But again, that's sort of like those people on the Titanic playing violin as the ship is going down. Even if it stays, it doesn't really provide meaningful tax reform. Trailing in the last couple of weeks, we've also seen some exciting stuff around consumption lounges down in Dina's area in Southern California, all the way down in San Diego. And so that's exciting. Rounding out, we just had the Hall of Flowers in Southern California. They do a biannual event, one in SoCal, one in NorCal. Their NorCal one is in September, I think, in Santa Rosa.
Yep.
But they had a great show, and I've heard nothing but fantastic feedback from those that attended the SoCal event recently. We've still got this lingering issue with hemp. We don't have parity between over-regulated cannabis and under-regulated hemp. And I think Gavin Newsom recognizes that if he's going to run for president like everybody thinks he is, he's going to need more than a gravelly voice and great hair. And so he's trying to show that he's tough on something. And right now, that tough on something looks like making hemp the bad cousin. It's the cousin without a fence. And so apparently you're not allowed to fence it here in California. And lastly, we are coming up against the opportunity for people to submit their cannabis products for the California State Fair. This year, we're not going to have an Emerald Cup after 20 years continuous. And so the State Fair is going to be one of the only opportunities for people who are growing, manufacturing, creating products to be able to submit their wares. And this is the first state fair in the history of the country where they're actually not only just testing for terpenes and cannabinoid profiles, but also having judges, that human interaction between the plant and the person. And they're going to take that information like they did last year and award winners. Now, I wouldn't be from NorCal if I didn't point out that about 3/4 of the winners, both in indoor, outdoor, and mixed light last year, were from Humboldt, Mendocino, Trinity, Sonoma County.
The triangle. Yeah.
Triangle and triangle adjacent. And so my hope is that people remember that awards matter and that it's not just about the gold, it's about the glory. And so we have a window now for people to submit, and I'm really looking forward to judging it again this year.
As you can tell, Yarrow has a ton of knowledge and passion for the industry in California, where he's been in it for a number of years. You can see the rest of that interview when we release it on Thursday of this week on our website and app. In the meantime, Dina Nagib and Yarrow Kubrin are the dynamic duo from the Golden State for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. So what's going on in Pennsylvania, you ask? It's in the race to become the 25th adult use legal state, and the stars are starting to align. The state's legislature there is kind of a frustrating thing because if you are an outsider looking inside at the workings of our federal government and other state governments, it's when one side of the aisle disagrees with the other side, and just because it came from the other side of the aisle. Now, the other party, this is not conducive to civil discussion in order to get anything done for this country. Yes, the Democrats made a lot of noise over the past 4 years, and they moved the needle a little bit on federal reform, but for the most part, they failed when they had the opportunity. Now the Republicans are in control. They see an opportunity for their party to become the heroes in the reform movement. And there's an indication that this might already be happening in Pennsylvania. A Republican lawmaker there, Abby Major, did an op-ed this past week basically saying that Republicans should snatch cannabis reform from the Democrats. In fact, she went on to conclude that accepting adult use in her state would be a smart conservative choice. And there's been quite a few surveys and polls comparing the use of the cannabis plant by these two political parties, and it still remains to be seen in Pennsylvania if they can deliver the next adult use legal state. In the meantime, they have a governor there, Josh Shapiro, who's already supporting that in his State of the State address, and the timing may be right in 2025. Next up is Arizona with Karen Black.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Arizona is not immune to the battle over hemp-derived intoxicants. As I reported this past December, Attorney General Chris Mays outlawed the sale of Delta-8 THC and other intoxicating hemp-derived products by non-licensed retailers. Fast forward to March 24th, and Mays doubled down, sending a warning letter to retailers, giving them a month to comply before enforcement kicks in. This move effectively restricts all THC product sales to licensed dispensaries, sparking debate over its impact on the CBD market and potential legal challenges from the hemp industry. Down the street at the legislature, there's renewed hope for those wanting to expand access to adult use and medical cannabis in Arizona's rural areas, specifically cities with 50,000 or fewer residents and no dispensaries within 25 miles. Senate Bill 1713 failed to advance, but SB 1057 rose from its ashes. The new bill is a striker, meaning it completely replaces the old language. It aims to issue 18 rural opportunity licenses, which would only allow operators to relocate to other underserved areas. Plus, it mandates the state issue nonprofit medical dispensary certificates to those with marijuana establishment licenses. While some industry folks are pushing back, arguing there are plenty of dispensaries, supporters say it's a must for economic growth and patient access in underserved rural areas. Down in Tucson, there's a new location to get your doobies at a drive-thru. D2 Dispensaries opened its third location in partnership with Halo Cannabis March 21st. Back up in the Valley of the Sun, there were several cannabis-related events. The Marijuana Industry Trade Association's monthly networking event, Maggie Jane's Mocktail Hour, and blunt brunches pouring into Power Tea Party celebrating Women's History Month. Also, the Arizona Department of Agriculture held its 6th annual Agribusiness Roundtable and Water Council meeting in Tempe, and Arizona Normal held its April chapter meeting at Bud's Glass in Phoenix. That's all for this week's Arizona Report. I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Welcome to Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm Christopher Bright from The Enlightened Voice, bringing you the latest cannabis headlines from Maryland. Last week, Governor Wes Moore and legislative leaders unveiled a 2026 budget plan to tackle a $3.3 billion deficit, blaming federal cuts and economic chaos tied to the Trump administration. The deal includes over $1 billion in new tax revenue and $2.3 billion in spending cuts, hiking cannabis sales tax from 9% to 12% starting July 2025, adding an estimate $27 million annually based on the current trends. That's less than the $39 million state projection suggests, as monthly sales have leveled at about $71.6 million. With hundreds of dispensaries open statewide, businesses could face an additional $270,000 in taxes each, potentially raising prices and pushing away consumers. Moore calls the plan pro-business, focusing on growth in tech sectors like AI and cyber, while Senate President Bill Ferguson says the cuts, the largest in 16 years, balance fiscal responsibility with Maryland's safety net. And now we celebrate our Content Creator of the Week. I would like to shine a spotlight on Marissa, the owner and creator of Sweeter Life. She exemplifies perseverance in the entrepreneur world and tirelessly working to place her handmade smoking accessories in dispensaries and at pop-up events. Marissa is truly an inspiration as truly an inspiring example of betting on yourself. And this has been this week's Maryland Cannabis Top Headlines. I'm Christopher Bright from the Enlightened Voice reporting for this week's Coast to Coast Cannabis News.
Well, that'll do it for the B block of the Cannabis Coast to Coast News Show this week, but we have more, including 2 stories you don't want to miss. One is about a new contest being run by the DEA to engage the under 21 youth of this country in an anti-420 video contest, and you can even make a few bucks for the yearly celebration of cannabis culture on 420. And how many dispensaries do you think you could visit in 2 days in your state? We'll show you how I did over the weekend when I figure it all out as we check out the Berkshires in the western part of Massachusetts. Don't go away. Cannabis Coast to Coast News continues after this break.